Welcome back to Dan on Dev. Today we are going to resume our conversation with Eric Reiners. We've already kind of covered his journey across a software organization and into Be Well, his new wellness company. We talked a little bit about climbing the ladder versus effective impact. Sometimes those are the same, but we covered some of that in the last episode. If you haven't seen that, I would recommend going back. That was a good piece of the conversation. Now we're going to jump into how managers can help with code. Whether you are actually technical enough to actually get into code and work on code, or you're not, there are effective ways to do that. We kind of cover a little bit about both. And so we want to introduce you into that. There are ways a good manager can have impact on the quality of the code, even if you're not a developer, but more so if you are, or formerly were. So anyway, we're going to jump into that conversation. So we'll take it over there. Yeah, but it's so because from my point of view, I thought you were a really good manager, and some of it was just your personality, right? You just were caring and you wanted to kind of figure things out, and then you had the technical acumen to dig into the problem a little bit, not write code necessarily, but at least understand what the team was trying to solve, right? And that's where I do think engineering leadership, the ones that have, I've seen lots of engineering managers that were never really engineers. That's also kind of difficult because, I don't know, I think it's hard to know when you're getting BS thrown at you because they don't want to do a thing versus and actually being able to offer ideas. I know I'm a decent engineer. I would focus on hiring people that are way better engineers than I ever will be.
I don't know, you've done pretty awesome code, Dan.
I'm okay. I'm okay. There have been times where the team got stuck on something, right? Talk about actually jumping in and write code, and I'd be like, no, I know this is possible.
Yeah.
Give me 2 weeks. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go write this. Old man's going to dust off his coding fingers and go write code.
And then deliver it. Go writing code again. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, the deal was my code was never going to get released. It was a prototype to show that you could actually do it.
Yeah.
And then, now go write it properly. go clean it up and write it correctly.
Well,
but I would
never a definition or I don't know. Maybe there's if you can kind of sense when something's off on a project or a technology or architecture or an integration or you can kind of smell something's not right, and you can kind of then zoom in and ask some good questions and come in with curiosity and not with judgment, but okay, tell me more about this. What led us to this design? Or, that's, I think, a good maybe level to have technical knowledge of. So you're not in there, because my team they would eat me alive, from a technical perspective. Yeah. But I knew enough to that I need to poke on that a little bit. And I need to probably ask some questions around that area. And I think that's good. I made some mistakes before of that's not going to take you 2 weeks. That's 2 days. You don't want to do that.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't even realize that there's a whole bunch of stuff in the way that they have to clean up to get there or whatever. So yeah, you don't want to judge them too harshly, but you also kind of want to be able to adjust
the estimates. Poke in the right areas, maybe. Yeah.
One thing I thought was interesting, kind of, and I don't know where the neuroscience here is, but there's a lot of times where I would, and I stumbled on this, right? Just asking, okay, explain to me how this works. Especially when they're stuck on something. Okay. Okay, what are you trying to do here? Walk me through it. Right. And what I found a lot is that I would just try to be a listening ear. I try to ask questions. Sometimes I would actually oh, well, what if you did a this versus a that? Because I actually had the technical background. I could actually offer suggestions. But engaging the developers in that process, often they would be like, oh crap, I just thought of something. I'm going to go try this.
Yeah.
Right?
They discovered their own kind of.
So that process of explaining it, when you could teach something, you have to more fully understand it, right? That general concept. But what is that? Like, how does that? Why does that seem to work so often?
Yeah, that you're going to challenge me on that one. Well, so what I found in like code review, when you have synchronous code review, so I'm describing my code and walking through the design with you and showing the unit tests and all that stuff. That's when I find the bug. You don't see the bug. It's like I see. I was like, ooh, I got a problem here. And then, so I wonder if it's just having that extra set of eyes to be accountable, and someone might ask a question, like you said, that is suddenly you get some insight from it. And that is usually you're kind of getting out of your own way. So your ego is subsided. Your ego is kind of going to the rear and you're really focused on the work. And the work is where the magic is. Like you're so engaged in the work. And it is, even though you've put a ton of effort into it, you want to create a really good product. And so I think like one of the things that happens when you're in a flow state is you get something called transient hypofrontality. Your prefrontal cortex stops trying to control everything, and your parietal lobes start to communicate directly to each other, and they start to string together novel insight. And so it's kind of like getting out of your own way maybe, and you're able to see two disparate ideas come together into something novel, and that's creativity, I think. But
well, I'm not a neuroscience guy, right? But one of the things you said there is it sounds like you're forcing them to engage a different portion of their brain into the problem. Is that?
Yeah, well, when they're describing it, it's a different way. When you're coding, like it's going directly from your brain into the keyboard, and you're running your unit tests, and you're having this like feedback loop that's super fast. And then you have to step back and actually describe your code to somebody else. It is a different part of your brain. It's and I think you discover and maybe see it from a different angle. And but I'd have to get back to you on that. It's a really interesting thing. Why does synchronous review work better than asynchronous review? Someone else just looking at your code, they might find some bugs, but you'll find the bugs faster if you're describing it to someone else.
Yeah, because you're visualizing it, you're trying to articulate it, so you're bringing in different pieces. That's interesting.
Different parts of the brain that are engaged with that language aspect of it.
Okay, yeah, so that's interesting. That's fascinating to me. I think that's pretty cool, and I would be curious to see what you think about it as you kind of have a chance to noodle on it yourself. Because it sounds like it's creating, you're forcing you to use other parts of your brain. I always just thought it was I never really I would hear people say, like, if you teach, you have to know it to teach it. But I hadn't thought about what that makes you do. So that's cool. Yeah. Okay, so that was a good conversation around how developers can actually help impact the quality of code. And the next episode that we have is how to maintain healthy developers. This whole channel really is focused around software development. And you can't do software development well if you're not taking care of your software developers. You need to take care of your team. You need to understand what they need and how to help support them, encourage them, all that sort of thing. And that next piece of the conversation is around that topic. And it's vital. So anyway, hopefully you can join us. The like and submit buttons are all really helpful to kind of getting this channel ranked up a little bit. So if you can click those, that'd be fantastic. But we look forward to seeing you on the next Dan on Dev.